and welcome to our webinar, Driving Growth in a Slowdown with Lessons from Business Leaders. I'm Amy Brito. I lead the Americas Commerce and Agency Go-to-Market Partnerships team at Stripe, and I'm excited to be joined by our partners Infosys and Accenture, as well as Emily Sands, Head of Information at Stripe. First, we'll hear from Emily, who's going to share key findings from the Stripe Insights 2023 report, and we'll follow that with a fireside chat with our partners to discuss thoughts and interpretations of the findings. But before we get started, just a quick reminder that the information provided in this session, including opinions of our speakers, isn't intended to provide technical or legal or other specific professional advice to each of you. And let me pass it to Emily to review findings and best practices we've gathered from the survey.
Thanks so much for that introduction, and welcome everyone. My name's Emily Sands. I'm the Head of Information here at Stripe. For those of you who aren't as familiar with Stripe, we provide financial infrastructure for businesses to accept payments, grow their revenue, and accelerate whole new business opportunities. And today I'm excited to share with you key findings from Stripe's 2023 Insights report. I'm an economist by training, so using data to understand the economy and how best to drive growth is certainly near and dear. Over the next 10 minutes or so, here's what we'll cover. I'll open with a quick level set on the questions we sought to answer and the methodology used. We'll then dig into the findings, starting with how businesses are responding to the current environment. I'll walk through 4 ways to drive revenue and efficiency based on what business leaders are planning to do this year, and close out with some best practices you can apply to your own business. All right, so diving in with the primary questions for this research, we really oriented around how businesses are planning to drive revenue and efficiencies this year, especially given we're in the midst of an economic downturn. We're all experiencing it together. Inflation is at an all-time high. Interest rates are on the rise. Consumers are spending less, and companies are across the board pressured to cut costs. You can layer on top of that the economic climate is rapidly evolving. There's a bunch of uncertainty across the board. So in this environment, we really wanted to understand what businesses are doing locally. Are they more focused on finding new ways to drive revenue or cut costs? How optimistic or pessimistic are they about the future? And how is that influencing the concrete decisions they're making for this year? To get a robust set of answers to these questions, we worked with an external research partner. We surveyed over 2,500 global business leaders, and these were folks at companies of all sizes, ranging from startups to enterprises and spanning the industries. You can see here the breakdown of respondents by function. The highest share were executives, think CEOs, CPOs, CTOs, and so on. And we learned so much from their responses. So let's dive in. First, companies are eyes wide open to the economic headwinds they're facing. Here's a sampling of what we heard from business leaders across the US, the UK, and Japan. And what you see is similar themes in their concerns. They cite rising costs leading to price hikes. They're worried about weakening consumer demand, leading to reduced profits. They're noting less access to capital and what that means for their business. And then layer on top that hiring is becoming even more challenging than before. And how are they responding? Honestly, going into this research and given the environment, we expected to hear that businesses are most focused on making drastic cuts in costs. Costs of capital are up. But interestingly, our survey revealed that many companies remain just as focused on finding new revenue opportunities. They're actually overall seeing the slowdown as an opportunity to experiment, find new ways to make money online, and they're optimistic about innovation. 61% agree that a recession is a ripe opportunity to innovate, while competitors might be playing defense. So how are business leaders driving up revenue during a downturn? First, they're focused at the bottom of the funnel on optimizing the checkout experience. This is really about ensuring you're capturing the most revenue you can today. 71% of businesses know that their customers expect more choice and a superior purchase experience. The pandemic, of course, accelerated businesses' adoption of new digital technologies, reaching customers and facilitating transactions online. And we're seeing that most companies recognize the importance of using payments to provide that choice and convenience that their customers expect. Think things like more affordable and local payment options, being able to make a purchase from a payment link. automatically saving and filling out card details instead of having to manually enter the information, and also faster checkout via ACH payments. All of this optimization of the checkout experience is, of course, better for consumers, but it also means more dollars for the business. Localizing the checkout experience is especially important to businesses that plan to expand to new countries. Among these businesses, we're hearing that 82% will customize their checkout experience based on their customer's location. And here again, little things go a long way, like making sure all of those checkout fields are automatically translated and localized based on the customer's location, that you're showing customers the most common local payment methods and more affordable payment plans like buy now, pay later. And of course, when the customer clicks the buy button, we want to avoid leaving any money on the table. Cards are declined for a number of reasons, some of which are completely avoidable. So now's a great time to look into, say, boosting your authorization rates by managing network declines and enabling tools that prevent involuntary churn and any of those avoidable declines. So things like network tokens and Stripe's card account updater. The second way businesses are planning to increase revenue is by embedding payments and financial services. And this is a big area of planned investments for companies this year. I was a little surprised by part of the findings. So 3 in 4 businesses plan to offer embedded financial services like bank accounts and charge cards, in addition to payment services. And what surprised me here is that this was true across all business types and industries. Embedded finance has traditionally been reserved for, say, vertical SaaS platforms. Think things like an appointment scheduling provider that offers payments and financial products in addition to their industry-specific scheduling service. But what we're seeing now is that there's a wide range of business models, from subscription companies to marketplaces, that are planning to integrate financial services into their product experience this year. In terms of which financial services businesses are most keen to offer, we're seeing charge cards, bank or money management accounts, and payment services top the list. And in terms of why, offering financial services helps businesses weather tougher times, including by giving them quick access to their funds via expense cards and cash advances and instant payouts and other tools. And we're definitely seeing this firsthand at Stripe. Businesses are starting to issue cards, for example, to give their customers immediate access to funds and to manage business expenses. And this allows them to unlock new sources of revenue for themselves too. Like every time a cardholder makes a purchase with a card issued through a business's card program, the business can earn money. They can keep a portion of the interchange fees that accompany every card transaction. So really a win-win for our users and their customers. A quick double click here to note some regional differences. Businesses in still maturing markets like Brazil and Mexico are actually more likely to embed financial services than those in established economies such as Germany or the UK or Japan. And I suspect this may be because traditional banking services in emerging markets can be harder for consumers to otherwise access. So by adding these financial services to existing software, these companies are able to meet a bigger unmet need in their local markets. Now we'll talk about how businesses plan to keep their margins healthy in 2023, starting with automating manual financial tasks in order to improve internal efficiency. To save employee time and resources, businesses plan to automate a bunch of common financial tasks. Things like reporting and reconciliation and invoicing and B2B payments. We're seeing this top of mind for folks in the C-suite and finance roles. And then respondents in payments roles are particularly excited about automating billing and quote-to-cash systems. The good news is that things like invoice reconciliation and revenue recognition and filing taxes are common tasks that can be automated to save time and reduce the risk of errors. Of course, this kind of automation allows businesses to spend more time on their own priorities. The more processes you can automate, the stronger your balance sheet can be. For finance teams, one of the biggest time sucks is consolidating data from multiple sources, closely followed by manual data entry and collection. Businesses, especially larger companies with more than 1,000 employees, often have multiple software providers. a mix of in-house and third-party systems, and even legacy systems that they're outgrowing over time. This in turn decentralizes data and forces finance teams to manually download reports from different systems just to close their books. One good solution for the problem of managing disparate data sources is to look for providers that can automatically sync data to your data warehouse so you can pull accurate reports without having to reconcile from different sources. And this brings me to our fourth and final strategy we're seeing businesses adopt in the current environment, which is consolidating software providers, in part as a mechanism for centralizing data. With the proliferation of software, as I mentioned, many companies are looking to consolidate vendors, in part to simplify back office processes. The types of software they're mainly looking to consolidate include these: B2B payments and invoicing, consumer payments, accounting and reconciliation, and business analytics. In addition to cutting costs, one of the main reasons that businesses are looking to consolidate is to centralize data and make it easy to pull accurate reports. And I think this just underscores how pervasive a problem data quality is for many organizations. We all feel it. One of the best ways you can consolidate disparate tools is by using an end-to-end platform. So for example, you can consolidate recurring payments and invoicing and billing and revenue recognition into one system so you can close your books faster and with less human effort. You can unify online and in-person payments with a single provider so that you can get a complete view of your customer across channels. And instead of using a separate fraud solution, for example, you can choose a provider that can automatically detect and block fraud while improving your payments authorization rates at the same time. To summarize the key points we covered today, first, businesses are just as focused on increasing top-line revenue as they are on reducing costs, even in the current environment. They're planning to localize their checkout experience to maximize revenue. Second, 75% of companies plan to offer financial services to their customers, and this is true across business models now, not just on software platforms. Third, when it comes to reducing costs, businesses are focused on automating financial tasks to free up employee time and focus on what they are uniquely positioned to do. And fourth, consolidating software providers is allowing businesses centralized data and reporting, and in turn driving even more efficiency. That wraps up our presentation of key findings from the 2023 Stripe Insights Report. Now, I'm delighted to turn it over to our panel of experts for today's fireside chat.
Thank you, Emily, for that fascinating review of the report findings. I'm excited to be joined by Niraj Jindal, head of the FinTech practice for Infosys, and Sulabh Agrawal, global lead for payments at Accenture. Thank you both for joining me.
Thanks, Amy, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Amy, and such a pleasure to be with you and to be with you, Sulabh.
I would like to start with you, Niraj. The report discusses that with the current economic headwinds, global business leaders are split 50-50 between finding new revenue opportunities for their evolving customer needs, but also reducing costs. What are you seeing with your customer base?
Yeah, Amy, the survey does a great job of identifying various avenues through which companies are maintaining or growing revenue even in the current scenario. It talks about loyalty programs, direct to customer, and many of those strategies which customers are applying. I want to build on one because I think it's very relevant, especially because we went through COVID recently and companies learn some of the challenges and are adapting based on that. So, on the supply chain as well as on the distribution side, we saw challenges. There was a lot of revenue lost, and customers were lost during COVID period because of supply chain constraint. So, learning from that, some of the companies have moved from supply chain efficiency to supply chain resiliency. So, on a large part, before COVID, companies were relying on some key suppliers and key outlets to maintain their revenue. But during COVID, they realized that that was inefficient way of operating. So now they have gone to more of a network approach, wherein they're looking at all their suppliers and the sub-suppliers and building a real-time ability to track the supply chain as well as the outlets. And in case there are bottlenecks, they're able to proactively plan for it. So, for example, on the distribution side, if an outlet is out of stock, they want to seamlessly service the customer from a different outlet while customers for customer it's totally transparent. So that's a very good strategy learning from COVID where companies are maintaining their revenue without impacting their costs. So just building something on the survey.
Sulab, are you seeing the same with your customers or anything different?
Yeah, I mean, COVID has really changed some of the core business models. So what we are seeing is a lot of customers have obviously moved to be more digital. I mean, we have been helping a lot of clients through digital transformations where they're becoming more direct to customer, they're becoming more marketplaces driven. Of course, supply chain, as Neeraj said, is becoming more and more important. And as they're going through this transformation, what is definitely coming to fore is a high degree of revenue focus associated with that, and for that they are engaging more in embedded finance and more subscription based services and trying to innovate and create new services for them. On the cost side, I agree. I mean, for a few years, pre-pandemic, we didn't see any cost focus or that much of engagement in the market. I mean, we used to do quite a lot of end-to-end operating model and cost reduction engagements, but post pandemic, more recently, we have seen a lot of increase in cost reduction engagements to look at the various ways and more intelligent ways to make costs more sustainable for our clients.
Thank you, Sulab. Let's continue with you and discuss the abandoned cart challenge businesses face. What checkout optimizations and user experience optimizations are you advising to your customers?
Abandoned cart challenge is a significant challenge. All these billions of dollars that companies spend in marketing, making the client aware of the product set, bringing them onto their mobile app or their website, and getting them to select the right product. And right at the moment when they're looking to buy, they abandon for various reasons. And we've been advising our clients to really focus on a seamless, frictionless journey to solve this. But that's not enough, of course. Like, a seamless journey can only be enabled by a seamless set of options available to the customer, which includes all the different type of localized payments methods, all the different type of financing options like embedded finance available to the customers, as well as a localized experience with the right currencies and the right language even. And finally, one of the big reasons why the customers give up is the whole set of errors they make. So if they have to enter all the long 16-digit card numbers again and again, then they make a mistake. And like, if you have had a not so good experience, then you will give up after some time. So I think it's all about, I mean, like Stripe has got the Link product or other similar wallet experiences where you get as close to one-click experience as possible while keeping, of course, the customer trust and security and the fraud in play. And we're seeing a lot of fraud controls which are coming in where you can have the controls in play, but at the same time keep the experience to as close as one click as possible.
Thank you, Sulab. I know as a consumer, I definitely identify with the impatience of the checkout process as well as expectations of the experience. Niraj, give me your perspective on the abandoned cart and how you're advising your customers.
Such a great question. And I think Saurabh mentioned that companies invest so much upfront and then just to lose customer at the last moment. And Amy, you are N of one. You are sharing your own personal experience. Yes, I want to build on something which survey talks about as well as Sulabh mentioned, localization. And let's talk about story of India. Um, if we go to India, the language of payment there is entirely different. And if any company wants to be successful there, they have to adapt to a new payment method India has implemented called Unified Payment Interface. So it was implemented in 2016, and Indian society was underbanked based on cash. In fact, for several years, India has been trying to move to or adoption of banking and also to move towards digital payment. And finally, UPI has done it. If you go to India, even a corner street vendor will be using a mobile based payment, which is the front end for the UPI. It's amazing. The society has changed because of that. So any e-commerce platform wants to be successful there, it has to adapt to UPI. In fact, two-thirds of the digital payments right now in India are on UPI, and this trend is exponentially growing. Not only that, interesting thing is it's going to come out with a version 2. So not only we have to stay with the localization, we have to see how fast that localization itself is changing. So very important point, if companies need to be successful and want to see the ROI of their front end investment, they have to stay very close to the local market.
That's really insightful, Neeraj. I think there are many parallels with what India is doing with UPI and customers and companies going global in many other countries as well. Neeraj, let's stick with you. Almost all the companies we surveyed, regardless of business model and industry, are interested in becoming a financial services provider or providing banking as a service. How are your customers innovating in this space?
Yes, embedded finance is a huge trend. Every company wants to cross sell. In fact, some of the e commerce platforms earn more money, possibly on the finance side compared to the commerce side. It usually helps to have a structure to talk about the embedded finance. If we look at it, there are five layers to that. The bottommost is the infrastructure. We can look at the payment rails or stock exchanges or credit system in a country. Above that comes the capabilities which a platform provides. For example, Finacle, Infosys platform, it has capabilities to provide banking modules and KYC, client onboarding, different components. Then a bank puts all of this together and uses all those rails to provide those services. Then companies like Stripe, they bring tremendous value to the front end by making it frictionless, adding tremendous amount of value. And finally, a platform like Shopify offers it to a client. In fact, in one instance, Infosys Finacle has provided the capabilities to the bank, and Stripe is the fintech partner, which is offering services to the end customer eventually. So, great trend. However, when we work with our client, we ask them to look at some of the fundamentals in their environment. For example, is the environment ready for a quick response API driven architecture? Because sometimes legacy platform may not be able to handle quick calls, API driven calls, and it might become very expensive. Similarly, the data protection is a very important aspect. Regulators are looking into it, and the banks as well as fintech should be very clear that they have identified and they have a clear strategy on the data protection side. If we can take care of these aspects, I think it's a great business model to offer to the customers.
So, Lab, do you have anything to add around embedded finance?
Yeah, we're seeing so many organizations moving into this whole innovation of their business model and trying to become their own financial services provider. Not necessarily to earn lots of revenues, but in most instances, they want to keep the customer on their platform. They want to have the customer spend a lot of time on their platform and not needing to go to various websites to complete the end-to-end journey and experience. And we're seeing a number of providers wanting to provide those embedded services within their platform as a result. I'll give you a few examples. There's a hospitality company, one of the largest globally, and we worked with them to create embedded financial services and payments experiences within their platform so that the customer can have not just the travel services, the stays, the experiences when they're going on holiday. all within their platform and not needing to go out at all, and enablement of all that being done through the various payment services and the other financial services products associated with it. And there are many examples out there, of Starbucks. I mean, you would think of Starbucks as the place where I go to get my coffee, but in essence, the Starbucks stored value card is a banking as a service. I mean, you leave your money in there and use that every time when you go and top it up. I mean, who would have realized that Starbucks will almost of all of a sudden become a full financial services provider? Uber is another example, right? Where Uber has got so many drivers who need to be paid to. And all of a sudden, Uber has got all these various SMB accounts for all these drivers to pay their, fare for the various rides that they have taken. And again, all these platforms, in order to keep the customer on their platform for longer, as well as give them a fully seamless experiences, are doing more and more and providing those services.
So, Lev, I like what you had to say about the offering financial services. It's not just about new revenue streams for a platform, but it's about keeping their customers and their users on the platform and that retention aspect. Let's say with you, business leaders shared that their engineering and finance teams are resource constrained. So, Lev, what finance automation trends are you seeing, and what opportunities do you recommend to your clients?
In the new macro environment where the interest rates are high, cost of capital is high, there was a point in time in our economy where capital was free and you can get it as much as you want. All of a sudden, capital has become expensive, and finance department has got such a even more crucial role to play in the health of a company. So as we work with them, I think there are two strands to how we are helping the finance departments. One is around data. I mean, as things are moving so quickly in the digital world, where payments can mean that things can go out very quickly, there's the geographically dispersed operations of organizations, how you actually collate the data in real time, be able to make the right decisions, is a really crucial part of finance departments and treasuries, and be able to deploy capital in the right way, to be able to raise capital or in the right way is just so important. The other part of this is operations itself, and we know that end-to-end automation and STP is just becoming so much more important from the whole finance perspective, which includes, right from receiving the payments, but also the billing and invoicing around it, the taxes, the reconciliations, and all of that activity is just so disparate in a lot of clients, and we're working with them to streamline to get to a much more automated end-to-end experience, as even Stripe as an organization is supporting a lot of their clients at.
Thank you. Niraj, are you seeing similar trends in automation?
Yes, in fact, it's interesting. Invoice automation, tax filing, we all want this to be automated. I don't know of any single person who enjoys this work. Uh, in my view, if I take a step back and just look at the overall productivity, and I think that's where the survey was going, where all our productivity opportunities. I'm very excited about artificial intelligence. I think artificial intelligence is going to help us with productivity tremendously. I've seen statistics like 7% per year productivity gain. It's just mind-boggling. Not only generative AI, but also other parts, classification, all different kind of AIs can surely help us with a lot of automation, reconciliation, tax filing, and I'm very bullish that these areas will emerge. In fact, it's very interesting when the entire robotic process automation started, the first use cases were around the same areas. Of course, we have come a long way, but still there are opportunities. And I think this all is going to get automated uh, because AI will address not only the process side, but also, as Sulabh said, data side. And I think the both will converge. And I'm pretty hopeful that this part of productivity we are very close to solving.
That's great. Thank you, Niraj and Sulabh, for helping us better understand other areas of consideration and additional depth in these insights. I'd really love to keep the conversation going, but unfortunately, we're out of time. And I want to give a big thank you to Emily and both of you as our panelists today for sharing all of your insights. To everyone online, thank you for watching, and we hope you found the session valuable. If you would like to learn more about the insights shared in today's presentation, we encourage you to download the guide by scanning the QR code that you see on your screen. Thank you so much and have a great day.